Hello, good morning. Also, happy St. Patrick's Day and happy Circle of Love Day. We changed our schedule this month a little bit, so I'm sorry if that really messed up your game plan, and I really hope that you're still able to participate in this activity, at least through this recording, and or try again next month. I really appreciate your flexibility and your understanding as I try to fit in all of my personal life events as well into my schedule. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about luck. It's St. Patrick's Day, and I was thinking, what does that really mean, to kind of be lucky or have luck? And when I kind of took the time, to kind of break it down in my mind, I arrived at the idea of blessings. Sometimes when we try to say wish for or hope for or wait for something lucky to happen to us, and sometimes I feel like I can get stuck in that pattern of just wishing and hoping and waiting. And I wanted to instead manifest another kind of a feeling of luck that comes from the things that we already have. And so that took me to the concept of blessings. And so that can also lead into the idea of counting your blessings, like we do often around Thanksgiving time. And just in general, practicing let's see here, gratitude, moment so that we can begin to balance out better the things that are in fact positive in our life, no matter how small, no matter how big, no matter what they're related to, and the things that we might still feel we wish would be different. So today there are a few different layers of concept, and it again includes the things that we have in our lives that we are thankful for. In other words, our blessings, or that we are grateful for, that we appreciate, that are good, that are positive already. And then balancing that out with the things that we feel like are, things that we wish that were different and that maybe are just not different yet, or not different, or maybe can never be different. And we just kind of feel maybe a little sadness about that. And then along with the concept of, just color. I'm so excited about color. I love color and rainbows. Who doesn't love rainbows? So I'm going to share my screen really quickly. I want to show you the imagery that I'm kind of keeping in mind during my activity today. And while these look very, cartoony and very like clip art-ish, it's really the concepts and imagery that we're focusing on, not so much the style per se. And so you see here a rainbow, you see some cloud, you see some star, you see some gold, like as in maybe even treasure, okay, the pot that's holding that treasure. Here's another rainbow configuration. I really like this the waviness of it. And I love almost these like splashes. That really got me excited and kind of got my imagination going. I love the idea of how some of these coins are inside or on the pot and some have kind of filled over. Just thinking about these things as concepts more than anything. And then I also love the vision of this huge rainbow traveling from way far off in the distance back here all the way forward to this pot of gold, and the beaming and the quality of this gold inside that pot, as well as also the nice visual of these fields. I tend to love the countryside. That's just one of my personal preferences. So this image really spoke to me. So, and also in here thinking about how this rainbow, say, we're going to call it right now, the beginning of the rainbow, being so far away, it seems, and or the beginning of it, and versus the ending of it being so far away or so far apart. It makes me think about sometimes the journey that we have to go through in other words, something difficult or something challenging or a long time period of struggle to then arrive at something better, something, more comfortable, something more hopeful. It makes me think about that journey really quickly right away in my mind. So again, all of these images really are simply an inspiration, a starting point to some bigger concepts and bigger ideas. And on that note of long journey, maybe long period of challenge, sometimes after a long period of challenge, still we don't arrive at either a conclusion or a better place per se, or a place that we want to be. And so it's a little bit about imagining what that place would be. What would that place be if you could get already to the end of that rainbow, to that pot of gold? What would that be? What would that gold look like, really? Okay, metaphorically. I'm always thinking of metaphors and symbols here in Circle of Love. And so always you're also invited to use your own interpretation. Okay. After all of these ideas are thrown out, if you start to get imagery in your mind that's kind of forming for you, that's different maybe than what I'm working on my page, absolutely go for it. Okay. I encourage you to make it your own. Now I'm going to get started though on my page. So I'm going to flash over to my surface and show you what I have here for supplies today. I have a piece of paper. I'm going to be using some watercolors myself. You are welcome to use any coloring supplies you want or you have, even something as simple as crayons. It could be something as simple as colored pencils. Maybe you don't have colors, that's okay. Just use your regular pencil, it's fine, because sometimes it's the idea that's more important than the product or than the look. Okay, so all of these things are options. I even have some extra things like some tempera sticks just because I have them. And then I also have some colored permanent markers just because I have them. And if you don't have them, remember, it's not necessary. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the, let's see, actually, I'm going to turn my page in landscape mode today. And I like that visual of that long, wide field, because for me, what's standing out is the concept of that long journey or that long period. I want to build some kind of a sense or feeling of hope here. And I also want to include in my pot of gold the elements that I already am very thankful for and that already exist in my life. So, and I like the idea of maybe even having coins in different places of my landscape, just for fun, just for fun. This is where we just get to use our imagination. Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm starting off with a little bit of a wavy line for my horizon line. And again, this is just my approach. If you have a different approach, please, please, please feel free to use that. I'm going to put some mountains in here. I just love the mountains. And actually, that is one thing that I enjoy and appreciate here living in Washington State. I'm constantly noticing the mountains and I just can't get enough. It's like every time is the first time that I'm seeing them. I'm just so much in such awe and wonder of them. And they all have the little snow top there. So I'm going to add that. Okay. And so for me, that's kind of like the distance. That's the far away place where I think I'm going to make my rainbow come out from. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start my rainbow way back there from behind this mountain here. And I'm going to make it come out like this. And what I'm actually going to just make a tiny adjustment here. I'm going to make it come a little wider, like this and like this and like this. And so that's almost like the edge of my rainbow. Okay. And then I'll for the other edge, I'm going to start it more narrow right here, pretty close to where that other line is way back there, so that I can incorporate a little bit of perspective. Okay. And so back here, the rainbow is very narrow. And then as it comes forward and closer to us, it becomes wider and wider and wider and wider. And you can see that I drew right over my mountains. So in a moment, I'm gonna I'm probably gonna erase this a little bit to lighten up those lines. But my rainbow is gonna be somewhat translucent, so I'll still be able to see some of the mountain back there while I'm working on it. It'll make more sense when we go, okay? I'm gonna lighten these pencil lines from that little spot just a little bit. I'm not gonna take them all the way away. I'm just erasing a little bit to lighten it, that's all, okay? All right, so this is what I have so far. The feeling of this kind of a landscape with these mountains that I love, with this rainbow starting from way back there and coming way over here to the front. And let's see, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm trying to decide whether I want to have a physical pot, like a pot of gold there, or if I just want to have a pile. And I feel like I kind of want to have a pile. I almost want my rainbow to kind of start spilling out all over, like all over the ground. So my rainbow is going to come, let me get rid of this extra line. The edge of my rainbow, this edge of my rainbow is going to just come and kind of flow that way. And this edge of my rainbow is going to come and flow that way. And it might end up being that this area of ground or field up here in front becomes completely rainbow. I'm not sure yet. And then I think I'll have some coins around here somewhere. So I'm just drawing these little ovals for starters, like this. And I'm going to make a variety of sizes. So I'm going to make some bigger and some smaller. And that can partly be to represent that sense of perspective or distance, just kind of like give us the feel of being farther away when they're smaller and being closer up when they're bigger. If that's something that sounds interesting to you and you can practice it. If not, it doesn't matter. Do any size you want. You decide what the rules are, okay, for your coins or for your creation. And I think I like the idea of some of my coins floating up here in the sky. And for me, I'm thinking of the placement of the coins also being strategic. In other words, that first of all, they don't actually really all live in one place always, that there are blessings I can find in different either places in the world or places in my life. Okay, and so I like that they are scattered around. It makes me feel like I'm more surrounded by the blessings, rather than that I have to go to one specific tiny place to find them. It's just something in my mind that makes me feel better, and makes me more excited to think about that I can find blessings in different places and can be surrounded by them. Okay, so always thinking about these ways that you can be more intentional about placing your elements and adding meaning to them. So I have a very, very basic, simple drawing that I'm starting off with, and I'm probably going to end up having more color or other things like up in the sky or maybe tiny little pieces of grass or things like that, in the ground area. And definitely the lines for the different colors of the rainbow, but I'm not going to draw those out with my pencil right now. I'm just going to add those in just with my brush and my watercolor, or just with other colors that I use. Okay. All right. And I'm going to get started now. Just wanting to show you a little bit about how I do that, just technically. This isn't designed to be any kind of a watercolor lesson per se, but if there's anyone who's interested in or wondering, how can you apply this color? There we go. In a way that's kind of more playful and doesn't have to have rules. Well, I'm going to show you. So right now I'm just starting and I applied my first color, which is the red. Okay. And I am somewhat going in the order of the rainbow. But what I just remembered and just realized is that, remember, I have my mountain behind here, right? And so I want to be able to see through the colors of the rainbow still to the vague image of the mountain back there. So now what I'm before I go any further, I realized I'm going to go back there and I'm going to go ahead and fill in my mountain. And I want to, let me show you what I'm doing here. I add a little bit of water to my brush. I come over to my watercolor to activate it. So I'm just going in circles to kind of create some liquid color. And then I'm going to actually dry my brush a little bit before I come to the paper. So I'm going to come and just dry and almost like remove some of that color, because that's really, really intense and dark color right there. And so I'm using more of a dry brush, excuse me, to come back here and fill in this mountain. And at the same time, it gives me this kind of a smudgy effect. And I like that. I like that smudgy effect. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to continue this smudgy effect here. It's almost like a rough mountain. Continue the smudgy effect over here. There. Okay. Excellent. And then again, this is not designed to be any kind of a realistic rendition on my page. You might like to try that on yours, or that might be the look you're going for on yours. Great, and go for it. Mine is more just a very quick sketch kind of a look. And I think I'm going to, because this still did turn out a little bit light, what I can do is I can find, I do have a lighter color. I've got this almost peachy kind of a color that I'm going to try coming right over that. And if that doesn't seem to be enough, then you can also try, if you have white, you can try some white over that as well, just to kind of lighten it up a little bit there. And when I do that, it does start becoming a little more gray, which is fine with me. You don't like that, you can go in and add a little more color to it. There we go. Okay. There we go. And that's enough for right now. And that allows me to now go and continue my colors over it. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my rainbow colors, and I'm going to add now a little bit of this pink, actually, just because I want it to have some more vibrancy, kind of a more vibrant effect. Add some of this pink right next to that red. Okay, and I say vibrant. It doesn't mean it ends up very, very bright on my paper, but at least it starts off brighter on my palette. Then I'm going to move into a little bit of orange. There we go. And now I think you can start to see how in this area where the mountain is, that it does look like just a beam of light, colored light that kind of shines right in front of that or over that. That's kind of the effect I'm going for. Okay, and then let's see, before I go any too much further, I'm going to take the ends of where all my colors are ending, and I'm with a little bit of a wet brush, I'm just blending those back out so there's no hard edges, so that later I can come back and I can continue the color. But right now I want to focus on just filling in the rainbow. With a little bit of a wet brush, I can keep blending and modeling that watercolor. Okay. All right, let's see. I'm going to go over to a green, and I love, love, love turquoise. So I'm going to try to, there we go, add a little bit of this turquoise in here. Okay, and I'm really feeling this start now of this journey that I'm trying to kind of take. This almost like the story that I'm creating. You know, speaking of stories, and especially when we are experiencing negative emotions about something, it really is just a story that we've devised in our minds about a situation. It's a story that we're telling ourselves. And so in this way, what we're trying to do is almost rewrite that story. Okay, tell a different story. That could be a very believable story. It could be a very achievable story. But it could also be maybe a dream story, and that's okay too. Okay to have dream stories. Okay. All of it is useful in one way or another. Okay, and again, I'm just kind of blending out. I'm going to go clean my brush and make sure it has a little bit of water still on it. And then I'm going to come in, I'm going to blend out all these endings there of the color. Okay, and then I think I'm going to also finish this off with a little bit of this kind of a purple. Oh, that's a very, very bright, intense purple, isn't it? So I'm going to go clean my brush and bring it back with just a little bit of water in it so that I can dilute that. There we go. And just blend it out a little. And then bring it a little bit further up here, that color. There we go. And bring it like this, add a little more intensity there, just to kind of define that rainbow a little bit more. Okay. Excellent. So I feel like I have my rainbow established, although there's a little section here. I think what I'm going to do is just continue some different color in this direction. And by different color, I really mean like additional. There, a continuation of a color there. Range of color. Okay. Now I love, love, love. I'm noticing that, yes, I'm getting that feeling that this end is farther away. And yes, I'm getting the feeling that this rainbow is like, it's almost like a waterfall, a rainbow waterfall, that if we were to be able to see through the waterfall water that is colored, that we would see that vague image of a mountain back there. And I love how it's kind of spilling over here. It's just all kind of becoming maybe a lake, or maybe I'm not sure yet what it's going to become, but it's transforming into something. So I'm keeping in my mind, you know, metaphorically, what might I want it to transform into? You know, maybe I do want to turn it into some kind of a big pool, like a rainbow pool that I could swim in, that I could be in, that I could experience, that it could be the pool of hope. You know, all of these are just kind of creative ideas that are starting to kind of just develop, you know, in my imagination. And I'm not quite sure yet about it. So I'm going to leave that area alone, and I'm instead going to go start working on some of these areas that I'm more sure about. Okay, so, and one of those is going to be this ground area. So another really cool I think parallel, or almost like a coincidence that I just realized in my mind, is that while I do love the countryside in general, and I do love the mountains here in Washington, I also always love seeing all that greenery when I see photos of Ireland. I've had the opportunity and been blessed to be able to travel to Scotland. And so I have seen these green, big, long, wide green, lush fields, bright green. And it just does something for my soul. I just want to stand there and stare at it every day, all day. So I'm going to try to come here and add some of this green and use some of that idea and that element from St. Patrick's Day as well in here. And notice how, just for some creativity, I'm using a different color of green here up front than I am further towards the back. Or at least I'm just incorporating some variety there like that. Okay. And as I'm doing this, as I'm adding the color, I'm thinking about standing in that place, putting myself there in my imagination, imagining that I'm standing right here and I'm looking across this scene and I'm soaking it in. And so it's like I'm creating my new world. Mhm. And I'm applying color very lightly and to keep it light, I'm making sure to, really just touch the very, very tip of my brush. I keep going back and forth between the very tip of my brush here directly into the palette, but you see how dark that is, right? Then back to my water, like almost like cleaning my brush. Okay, and then tapping it on my napkin just like once to get rid of some of that water, but not all of the water. And then coming back here and blending out like this, some of that dark, very, very dark um, color that I originally applied. And that's how I keep going back and forth just to kind of model this grassy area and adding more or different, I should say, different greens for myself. Whatever color you're using, I encourage you to see, do you have different versions of it or different shades of it that either you can create or that you already have, that you can try just to give it some variety. That's another way to practice your creativity as well. Okay, so here we go. I'm slowly working on getting all this filled in. As I'm working, I'm also imagining again, once again, myself there, imagining myself there. What if I was standing in this place? Okay, adding a little bit of this bluish, leaving some of the areas white just so that they kind of feel like some mottled clouds. Okay, and I'm almost like scrubbing, just quickly scrubbing on the paper. In some areas, maybe I'll make that blue a little bit, there we go, a little bit darker. And then these coins, I'm thinking that I want to go ahead and take a moment to make them more coin-like. So I'm going to add this edge. So right now you see they're really just these ovals. But I'm going to add a line like this and a line like this. Take the time to truly make that there we go, a coin with some thickness to it right there. So I added a line there and a line there, and I made another curve. And now you see the difference between this coin that has some thickness to it and this coin that doesn't have any kind of sides yet. I'm just going to take time to go through and add sides to my coins. And that might have, some might think that that's something that you want to, you should do before you add color. I often just I don't like to think about all those little details too much right up front, especially when my ideas are flowing. I just want to quick get them out on my paper. There we go. And, sometimes it can actually be more natural if they do already have a tiny bit of another color like that inside of that space. So, so now I'm going to go and add some color, let's see, intentionally. And I'm thinking, well, coins are usually goldish, or the coins that we're talking about, like in a treasure or in a pot of gold, are usually goldish, right? So do I really want to keep that effect? And just questioning that all the time. Does that make sense to me? Does that fit my story? And sure, it's okay with me. I think I'm not having any other reasons why it should be any other color for me. So I'm going to go ahead and make them this kind of yellowish, very bright color. And then over that very bright color, I'll put, again, for some variety, put some other kind of this maybe brownish, or I suppose it would be like more like a yellow ochre. It can sometimes have a goldish kind of a feel. It's not shiny or anything, but it's still a goldish feel there, just for some variety, for some roundness. Okay. All right, I'm gonna keep adding these, filling these coins in little by little, filling in the rest of my scene, and continuing to develop that story of my blessings, of where are they, of what are they, of, what is happening with the rainbow? What is the rainbow? What do the colors, um, and the idea of a colorful experience mean to me in my life? What would it look like? And sometimes, some people might interpret having a colorful experience not necessarily as a positive thing or a pleasant experience. For me, I love color, and it reminds me of summer for some reason. I know that usually it has a direct relationship with rain, um, or with grayness, or with cloudy days, or even just with there being some other different weather conditions. But for me, it's just like this brightness that reminds me of summer. And so it's a positive thing in my life. So just continuously thinking about those things and your relationship with those things, and what do they mean for you. And then again, just being intentional about placing them where it makes most sense to you, how it makes most sense to you. And now that I look at mine, I'm thinking they're starting to remind me of Easter eggs as well, like scattered or hidden, and throughout a field, throughout a green field. And I just love that idea too. Whenever my mind starts going to new, to these new connections, I first check and I think, okay, how do I like that idea? Is it something that brings me joy? Is it something that aligns with my, with the message or with the feeling that I'm trying to achieve here? And it does. It goes right along with it. So it's something that just kind of makes me giggle, and I like that. All right, I'm going to go back and I'm also now thinking about trying to add some more definition in some of these areas, like the edges of the mountains, for example, so that, there we go. So they kind of stand out from each other a little bit more, and with very light touches, very, very light touches. It just takes a tiny bit. Watercolor can be really, really strong, a really strong or potent medium in some cases. If you are only using a tiny bit of water, then you get really a whole lot of pigment. So just kind of constantly keeping in mind how much pigment you want. I've also noticed that my mountains are kind of grayish. It kind of goes with the idea that, yeah, sometimes it's a hard journey. It's a really, really hard and very long journey or struggle. And yet it's still very, very possible to overcome those long journeys or hard struggles. And so that's another reason why I like that my rainbow is kind of coming over those mountains, like it's overcoming something. Okay. And the mountains, in other words, the color of the mountains also keeping in theme with something that's more difficult. The black, the gray often feels and is thought about or used as a more solemn color. So here's how much I have currently finished or completed here in my work today. I'm still thinking about what I'm going to turn this area into, this part of the rainbow here. I'm really enjoying all the different scattered coins. I think I'm going to be adding some more, maybe hidden, even tiny ones, even tiny little ones in the mountains, I'm thinking, because those hard things, those difficult journeys teach us a lot about ourselves, sometimes make us have to make some very difficult decisions. and there are always opportunities for growth. So I am going to put some coins in there, some tiny little ones, and keep going on this and keep developing my story. What I'm hoping is that you're getting to develop your story and getting to find those ways that you can discover blessings in your life, and or treasures and or gold coins. And also, at the same time, look forward to or create hope for something else that you are, um, wishing or dreaming or waiting for in your life, that can be another blessing. But that also you can recognize that sometimes it is a journey, and sometimes that we still will not find the gold pot at the end of that rainbow, but that we have to search for it then other places and other ways. Okay. I am going to, for those of you who are watching this by recording, I'm going to go ahead and take a break from my project. I want to thank you so much for joining, even by recording. And I hope that you get a chance to continue your project. And if you do complete it, to please send me a photo or an image. I love that. By email is always great. And otherwise, I hope that you can try to make it together live next time. All right. Thank you so much for joining me on Circle of Love today. Again, I'm Cynthia, and I wish you a very, very, very colorful or enjoyable day.